Yo, what is up, everybody? Evo back today. We're going to be discussing how to lose weight fast without actually starving yourself. So, there's a lot of methods, there's a lot of fad diets out there, but I'm going to cut the bullshit. We're going to get straight into it, guys, and I'm going to go over what works effectively and what works consistently. So, first, let's go over some common myths and misconceptions. So the myth number one is going to be that starving yourself is going to be the best way to lose weight, which is completely wrong. When you starve yourself, your metabolism functionality slows down a little bit, so you're going to lose muscle and you're more likely to binge later. When you start binging, that's going to result in more bullshit like sweets or processed foods that you don't want to be consuming regardless due to their high calorie count as well as just negative health side effects. So that starving yourself in that regard will almost never allow you to maintain muscle mass also because muscle is quite anabolic. It requires constant energy to grow and to maintain. So starving yourself in any stretch of imagination, either for weight loss, nor for muscle gain, is going to work out for you in your favor. Um, so it's a trap that you think it's more healthy, but in reality it's quite unhealthy and you don't want to go down that route. The second myth is going to be that you have to do endless cardio to burn fat. That's not true. Cardio helps and it's consistent when you put it in between your workouts. So for example, after your workout or on days where you're resting, you do a little bit of cardio. It helps stabilize and keep your calorie count lower, but it's not a silver bullet. So diet usually is going to play a much bigger role. If you're consistent with your cardio, for example, like you do your daily 20 to 30 minutes of speed walking, that's plenty to make up for pretty much majority of your calorie deficit when you combine that with not eating as much junk food. So when you're in that deficit, if you're maintaining it, even if it's only, let's say, 200 or 300 calories a day, over the long run, that's going to be plenty for you to lose weight. It's also the most efficient way, as that's the least likelihood that you will lose muscle mass because once you go fast to a certain extent, um, you don't really benefit as much, right? And you end up losing too much muscle, so it doesn't make your cut as worth it. Myth three is gonna be that supplements or detox teas will melt fat away. Nope, that's bullshit. None of those work. No pills or powder is gonna replace your discipline, whether that's in doing your cardio, whether it's eating right and eating clean, and your consistent effort in working out. The only thing that does lean towards that is some specific teas and coffees do increase your metabolism a little bit, but it's not in any meaningful big way. Losing weight isn't about starving or pushing yourself. It's about creating a manageable caloric deficit that you can perform long term. Eating fewer calories than you burn, for example, and you make sure you eat calorie dense meals. For example, you got your salads and your meats that always fill you up. Add a complex carb here or there, rice, maybe a little bit of bread. Ideally, not bread though. Mainly stick to rice and potatoes if you can, specifically sweet potatoes, or pastas to go along with a fairly small mixed portion. And then you can hit all your macros while still lowering your calories. But here is the catch. If your deficit is too big, like I said earlier, you will lean towards losing more muscle mass and that is going to overall slow your metabolism. So it's making yourself up and setting yourself up for failure from the get-go if your deficit is way too big. You don't want to do that. You want to keep your protein intake quite high to protect that muscle and balance out your fats and your carbs so you don't really feel deprived and weak when you're working out, right? Focus on the long-term habits. Those long-term habits in time will allow you to keep your muscle mass and they will allow you to lose weight, but you have to be patient. This is not something you can bang out in a month or two, ideally, unless you're already starting from a fairly lean standpoint. For most people, when you do it right, for the average person, it takes about maybe 3, 4, even 5 months if you're a lot higher body fat. So it takes time. It takes time. It's definitely not a quick fix. And in most cases, you can probably, I would say, go up to about what, like 400 calories deficit per day. Um, I would say for 99% of people, it's not worth going over that unless, again, you're extremely overweight. If you're consistent and with time, you will lose significant weight at 400 calorie deficit every single day, which is plenty. And that'll give you the highest chance probably of maintaining your muscle mass. So setting the right goals do matter a lot. You want to be calculating your maintenance calories off the bat. That's how many calories you're going to burn in your day, doing nothing extra. So essentially sitting on your ass, that's what you want to count. And that'll be the base to work off of. So you always want to be a little bit, let's say maybe 200-ish calories under that regardless. The rest of your difference is going to come in the form of cardio. So if you're doing your daily walking, That's going to be, maybe 200 calories, maybe 250, even 300 if you walk a lot. Um, Combined, that should give you anywhere between 400 to 500 daily calories as far as your deficit. That is quite plentiful. That way, also, you're not starving yourself, because if you eat close to your maintenance and you walk, you'll feel a lot better than if you didn't walk and ate less. So usually, I find for me and for other people, it works a little bit better. It's more sustainable. You don't feel as cranky, which allows you to maintain it for a longer amount of time, and that's when it matters. Remember, guys, you don't want to obsess over the scale. Track your progress with measurements. How your clothes fit your energy levels, because the weight will fluctuate regardless. You're holding more water sometimes, especially when you start the diet. Then you start removing water, and you have fast weight loss, and then sometimes weight gain, even though the difference isn't that big. For example, if you're a guy, your shirts will fit you better. You'll usually start floating around the midsection a little bit compared to what it was before. So your love handle area will start to fit a little bit more loose, and your upper bar should still be relatively the same. And what are some simple, easy daily habits that you can work on to help you towards that goal? So if you stick to these couple of things, it'll make it much, much, much easier for you. So the main thing is going to be, or the first thing is going to be, only eat when you're hungry, not out of boredom. I've actually personally had a lot of struggle with this in the past. I've done it quite often. You just eat when you're bored. When there's a movie, you pull out some popcorn, you have some chips, you have some sweet. You want to avoid that. Only eat good quality food when you are hungry. Don't force feed yourself. That's gonna go a long way. Then second thing is gonna be drink plenty of water. Ditch all the sugary drinks. If you're gonna drink anything, the only thing you want to be drinking is gonna be your protein shake, and that's, don't overdo it. Don't add peanut butter if you're cutting down. It's just empty calories at that point. And the only other two things is gonna be coffee and teas. Don't use sweeteners for either. Both of those do help with metabolic gain, but they won't make you fatter. Like, for example, something that's processed or has a bunch of sugars in it and whatnot. The third thing is going to be, you want to move regularly. Like I said earlier, you want to walk, stretch, do a short workout. You don't need a gym marathon or nothing. Aim for only 15 to 20-minute walks around the block every day. That's plenty. If you're speed walking, because I have an incline by my place due to a hill, that's going to be plenty, plenty, plenty if you're consistent with it. So doing 20 minutes a day goes a long way to cut down on those calories. And then the fourth thing, which is arguably one of the most important things, is prioritize your sleep and manage your stress. Sleep is going to do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. If you can consistently get, let's say 7 hours of sleep um a night, ideally more, 7 8 hours, it's a pretty big difference. Even jumping from 7 to 8, there is noticeable gains, and then anything after that is not really as needed, but try to hit at least 8 hours every night if you can. Good quality sleep makes it way easier to maintain your muscle mass, and then losing fat, it can offset or even replace some of the need to do that cardio extra, because if you have extra good sleep, an extra couple minutes of walking is not going to out benefit the extra sleep, in my opinion. All right, guys, and to wrap it up, weight loss isn't magic. It's simple if you stick to the basics. Consistency is what's going to separate you from the rest. You want a moderate caloric deficit, and you want to build in some good habits. And I want to hear from you guys. What is your biggest struggle with weight loss? And I want you guys to drop a comment below and let me know. If you want more no bullshit advice, please hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys next time. I hope we can get shredded together. All the best. Take care, guys.